So I got my post-graduation work permit application approved in 30 days. I submitted my application on May 6, 2026, and by June 6, 2026, it was already approved. So that is exactly 1 month. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down my timelines, what I did before applying, the things that I had to put in place, things that I did while my application was already submitted. Stick around because I'm going to be showing you the step-by-step process, the documents you need to put together, the common mistakes that you should avoid, and also the current 2026 rules that have changed everything. As at last year, 2025, lots of people were saying that your post-graduation work permit application could take as long as 6 months to 1 year before it is being approved. As a matter of fact, in 2026, there are still people being approved who applied as far back as 2025. Now, lots of people talk about these things without actually discussing what is impacting the faster processing times. Remember, as far back 2024, there was a cap on international students' admission. So in 2025 and 2026, the number of international students in Canada have drastically reduced. Of course, without drastic reduction, that would mean fewer people are graduating every year, and so the backlogs are being cleared and processing timelines are faster than it used to be. While this is a good thing because you don't have to be in that space of uncertainty for too long, it also has the negative side of things. That means you don't even have too much room for error or correction of your error. Here are some key things I put in place before applying for my post-graduation work permit. As early as 1 year before the end of my program, I had already started strategizing and planning towards my postgraduate work permit application. First things first, if you know that your passport validity would not carry you throughout the duration of your postgraduation work permit, the first thing you should do at least 1 year before your graduation is to apply for your passport renewal. Personally, I like to do things ahead of time so that I'm not running helter-skelter. So when you start applying for your passport renewal on time, it will give you more room and time to be able to get a new passport that will cover the validity of your PGWP. Because here's what happens. If you're eligible for a 3 years PGWP, and at the end of the day, your passport validity cannot carry you throughout the 3 years, they can only approve your PGWP for the validity period of your passport. And then you have to go through the hassle later in the future of extending your PGWP. Note that application for a postgraduate work permit is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Once your 3 years is exhausted, that is it. If you are only eligible for 1 year, you cannot apply for another post-graduation work permit. So it's important that you get things right before submitting that application. When you check your study permit validity, you would see that an extra 90 days was added to the day that your program was completed. That means you only have 90 days to be on a study permit before you lose your status in Canada. After 90 days, that means you are now going to be on maintained status. But you can only be on maintained status if you have submitted your application for either a study permit extension or a post-graduation work permit. All of these points is just to tell you that you have very limited time to submit your post-graduation work permit and very little room for correction of errors if it happens that your application was refused. So try to plan ahead of time and make sure that you have everything in place before submitting that application. Number 2 on my list of things that I put in place before applying for my post-graduation work permit was my test of English results. I was to finish my exams and projects in April 2026, but as of January 2026, I made my first attempt to write my CELPIP exam. I was able to pass that exam on that first attempt. For my program, I needed a minimum of CLB 7 in all of speaking, writing, reading, listening. That CELPIP test costs around 310 Canadian dollars. So you also want to prepare on time and make sure you're ready to write it before going for it. As part of my planning, I wanted to start writing that test as early as 4 months before the completion of my program so that it would give me room to rewrite in case I didn't pass any section or meet up to the minimum requirement. But you have to plan yourself accordingly. Don't wait until you graduate before you start attempting to write your test of English. Write it as early as possible. The third thing that I did was to go for an upfront medical examination. I did that in April 2026, about 3 weeks before the end of my program. Although there was a rule in place during my time that if you had submitted a medical exam while applying for your study permit, you don't need one when you're applying for your post-graduation work permit. I still went ahead to do the upfront medical in Canada because I saw a situation where someone who used the old result got restricted. So what happens is if you do not submit an upfront medical with your application, if that rule were not in existence, you would have some restrictions on your work permit saying you cannot work in some health sectors or vulnerable sectors in Canada. For me, I didn't want to see any restriction on my work permit, either by error or intended. So I had to go for that upfront medical weeks before I submitted my application so that the results would get to IRCC before I submit my application. It doesn't matter if there are rules like that, you might choose to follow it or not. For me, I would rather be safe than sorry. I would rather go for it and not need it than need it and now have to be running helter-skelter. So check if you would need that for your program and of course go for it. So those are the major things that I put into place to make sure that my postgraduate work permit application was seamless and I had everything in place such that when I put my application forward, I wouldn't have to be bothered about anything else. You need to know that the rules for people applying from within Canada and those applying from outside of Canada are different. So make sure that you follow the rules applicable to your condition, whether you are inside Canada or outside of Canada. Next thing is you want to check the document checklist and make sure that you have everything in place. If there's any of the documents on that checklist that you are yet to have, work towards getting that document so that you don't have anything holding you back when it is time to submit your application. The document checklist as of today is on the screen, so you can go through it. The website also will be put in the description box. Another thing I did towards the completion of my program was to open my postgraduate work permit application portal. And I started filling some of the forms there. There is a form that you need to fill to extend your stay in Canada. So I started filling that form and attaching the documents that I already had. I did that such that the only thing that was remaining for me when I was ready to apply was my completion letter. As soon as I got my completion letter from my university, I just attached it to my application and submitted the same day. I submitted my application on May 6, 2026, and on May 8, 2026, I received the work authorization from IRCC saying that I could continue working full-time for any employer pending when a decision is made on my application. So that also didn't take long before it was sent to me. You don't need to apply for that. As long as your application has been submitted, it automatically is added to your profile within 2 days to 1 week of submitting your application. What do you do if after submitting you realize you made a mistake? It's simple. Just fill a web form and submit to IRCC. Just type on Google IRCC web form and it will bring you to the website where you can complete the details of your web form. It's not difficult to fill a web form. In my own case, some days after I had submitted, I was just going through the details of what I submitted because I created a folder where I saved everything that I had submitted. So I was going through that folder, reading through everything that I have submitted to make sure that there were no errors or mistakes again. And I saw that the completion date I put was April, which was my program end date, but the completion date on my school's letter was May. So what did I do? Immediately, I raised the web form, attached a letter of explanation, and attached the documents relating to that correction. This is what a letter of explanation looks like. You can see the details on it. It has your name, your UCI number, your application number, and then explain what happened or what you're trying to achieve, whether you want to correct an error or maybe you omitted a document and now you want to attach that document. Just a simple explanation. Then you have to put this explanation letter as the first page and then attach the documents that you want to attach for referencing as the second and following pages. It just makes things easier for the visa officer, whoever is reviewing your application. So as soon as you realize you've made any mistake, it's better you just raise a web form immediately before your application is being processed. Here are some common mistakes that I've seen people make regarding their PGWP application. Number one is applying outside the 180-day window. Now that complicates things for you. Or maybe you submitted an application and it was rejected. You still need to reapply within that 180 days window. Another mistake that I've seen people make is not knowing what their study status is. As of September 1, 2024, you have to have studied in Canada in person to be able to qualify for a post-graduation work permit. If you're doing a program that has a hybrid structure, whereby you have to do some classes online and offline, if your online classes are more than 50%, you are going to be ineligible for a postgraduate work permit. Next thing I want you to do is go and check your study permit validity. If it doesn't give you that extra 90 days after the end of your program, that means you have a very short window. Now, what happens is, if you apply outside of that 90 days, you have to apply first for a restoration of your status back to student before applying for a postgraduate work permit. You have to pay an extra $200 for restoration of your status to student first before you can apply for a post-graduation work permit. The fourth mistake that people make is assuming that the field of study eligibility requirement doesn't apply to them. Except you're studying for a bachelor's, master's, doctorate degree, or university degrees, you need an eligible field of study to be able to qualify for a post-graduation work permit. This is why I advise people, before taking up a course in Canada, do your own research. I have made a video previously on how to confirm if your program is PGWP eligible and also if your course is PGWP eligible. Some schools also are not eligible for post-graduation work permit programs. These are some of the things you look into before coming to Canada for studies. I'm going to attach a link to the video and put it in the description box if you need to reference it in the future. The last mistake that you want to do is avoiding a messy application. If there is inconsistency in your application, inconsistency in your information, remember your details are already with IRCC. If you miss out a detail that conflicts with something you have submitted before, that flags your application. It puts a red flag on your application. Go back to the application you submitted when you applied for a study permit. Use the details in there and ensure to put everything the way it was shown in that application, because any red flag on your profile can lead to a refusal. So you want to make sure that your information is consistent. You want to make sure that you're not missing any vital information. If you have been denied visas previously, think about it, write them down before you submit your application and put those information there. So you have to have a track of all your rejected applications in the past, both to Canada, to US, and any other country that you've applied for previously. Take note of all the refusals you've had in the past and review those information when you're submitting your PGWP application. In summary, before you graduate, register for your English test, apply for your completion letter, apply for your official transcript, confirm your study permit expiry dates, check if your program is PGWP eligible. The PGWP eligibility applies mostly to diploma and certificate programs, but even if you're doing a degree program, you still need to check for that, especially because not all DLIs are eligible to offer PGWP programs. Before submitting your application, make sure that the scanned copies of the documents you're submitting are clear and legible. Note that once you have submitted your application and you receive your work authorization letter, you can work unlimited hours full-time for any employer in Canada. Ensure to track your application, go back and see the documents you've submitted just to make sure that every document and every detail you've submitted are accurate and has no inconsistency between what you've submitted now and what you've submitted in the past for other applications. Let's talk about the cost for the PGWP application. It cost a total of 255 Canadian dollars as at when I applied in May 2026. Outside of that, I had to pay about 400 Canadian dollars for the upfront medical examination. And then I spent 310 Canadian dollars for my CELPIP tests. In total, that's about 975 Canadian dollars. If this video has taught you a thing or two, please click on the subscribe button, like my video, and share the video with your friends. Also, leave your comments if you have any questions and I will respond to you as soon as possible. Thank you for watching. Until my next video, bye for now.